Let's go next to Bob in Rochester. Question about Notre Dame quarterback competition. Do you think Carr has a higher ceiling than Steve Angeli, and the staff may take a chance on him early against Miami and A&M, or do you think that we'll play it safe with Angeli and gradually work Carr into the lineup the way Texas did with Arch Manning? Great question, Bob. And I've been fortunate enough to spend a lot of time with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I've been to practice. I've watched CJ Carr throw. I've watched Steve Angeli throw. I've been around those guys and see how they interact with their teammates. Like, I spent a lot of time with this program. So I feel like I have a more adequate grasp on the depth of Notre Dame's roster than maybe any roster in the country. Just having such access to them throughout the playoff run of 2024. I will say this. Yes, CJ Carr is extremely gifted as a thrower. Extremely. You watch him throw, the way the ball comes off his hand, the way he can turn it over, the tight spiral, pinpoint accuracy. I remember a moment just in practice where I'm sitting there watching him, and the goal, they were practicing red zone passes. They were practicing throws inside the 10-yard line, and the goal was to throw it just underneath the upright. For those of you that don't know, when you are a quarterback and you're having to work the end line, the back of the end zone, the goal is to throw it high where only your guy can get it. Low, and that could get tipped, and that's when problems happen. So the goal for quarterbacks is to try to hit that crossbar so that your guy can go up and make a play on the ball. Well, I'm sitting there watching CJ Carr, and it's like, boom, 2 inches under the crossbar. Boom, 3 inches under the crossbar. Boom, right at the crossbar. I mean, it was impressive with great velocity, great spin, very catchable for the opposing wide receiver. That being said, I don't care about practice. You know, it's like what Allen Iverson said, practice? Practice? I don't care about practice. Okay, if I want to go win a quarterback skills competition, I probably last year would have taken CJ Carr over not just Steve Angeli, but you know, I also probably would have taken him over Riley Leonard, who took Notre Dame to the national championship. But it's not about a skills competition. It's about how you perform when live bullets are flying. And with all due respect to Carr's upside, I think it's there. I think it's obvious. He's got really, really gifted skill set. I've seen Steve Angeli do it. Like, I've seen Steve Angeli go out there on the field in the Sun Bowl 2 years ago and light it up. I've seen Steve Angeli thrust into action when Riley Leonard was getting a concussion test against Penn State, against a ferocious pass rush in Penn State and one of the best defenses in the country. I saw Steve Angeli go into the lineup and just methodically, right down the field, accurately carving up a defense that prior to that possession haven't given up a thing. I've seen Steve Angeli. And who's to say that Steve Angeli's ceiling, when the real lights are on, isn't outrageously high? We don't know that. We've seen him make one start, and it was a couple years ago. What if, when we fast forward to this year, Steve Angeli has some awakening, and all of a sudden he's the second coming of Joe Burrow? You remember now, Joe Burrow at Ohio State was just a guy. Joe Burrow in his first year at LSU, people don't want to remember this, but he was just a guy. Actually, about as average as the day is long. Well, Steve Angeli, up to this point of his career, solid, just a guy. But maybe there's another level in there that we just don't know about. Because when the game flipped in Joe Burrow's final season, when he got a chance to run an offense that was built for him, look what happened. He went from being a guy that was potentially undrafted to the first overall pick and the Heisman Trophy winner and a national champion. Maybe that's in there for Steve Angeli. Because if you watch Joe Burrow throw in practice, He's not going to throw it probably as impressively as CJ Carr throws it in practice. But you watch him throw it in the game, and it's like, wow, that's a different guy. So we'll see what happens with Steve Angeli, but I would not rule out him becoming the starting quarterback based on what we've seen on game day and how efficient he has become at times when thrust into the lineup.